That's what I was. I got comfortable.
All right, so we are live back again, Senate Health and Welfare, and we're talking now about H 401, an act relating to exemptions for food manufacturing establishments. We've heard from a number of folks, and Peter Hopkins is here from Happy Valley Farm, and I'll have you introduce yourself after we've introduced ourselves. And Senator Hart is on the screen behind you. Morning. And go ahead, Sam.
Sam Douglas, Williams County Senator.
Lions, Chittenden Southeast.
Our team around you at Chittenden Central and Cummings, Washington County.
By way of introductions, I'm Peter Hopkins, a partner in Happy Valley Farm in Powell. Excuse my voice, it seems my allergies are kicking in a little early.
A lot of that
There was
going
around
around.
on my windshield.
We're
This
all-
small.
I think I must be allergic to daffodils or something. So we believe ours is the longest standing hop farm in Vermont, having begun in 2012. And also in context, I'm the originator of last year's version of this bill, as well as this year's. We've traveled all over Vermont and nearby Massachusetts in search of what we call lost hops, left from 18th and 19th century hop farms. And in that, we've also located America's first hop, which was discovered by settlers in 1762. These are now our proprietary hops, and we blend and sell them to small brewers, two of which are in Vermont. Though far from a hobby, this is not a very profitable business. We knew this going in and created our food business to help support the farm. So instead of farm to table, Happy Valley is table to farm. And we started our business for three reasons. 1, 2, 3. My presence here today and my advocacy for 401 is not about my financial situation in Vermont. It's about my quality of life in Vermont and about the financial impact and quality of life of many of our fellow Vermonters. I'm going to close this. I open this because I followed this obviously very closely. I drove up from Powell last night and this morning while I'm sitting down with a cup of coffee and waiting to testify. It is exactly as far as on that one. So I went downstairs maybe an hour and a half ago. I was able to read the latest proposed changes submitted by the Department of Health. And I was very pleased to see those changes, and a result. I don't have a lot to say today.
Wow,
I know.
that's terrific.
It
That
is.
is terrific.
For me, it's terrific. I know it's for you.
Oh, it is terrific for us as well. We'd like to get to this place consistently, so appreciate your comment. And I'm glad you read the recent draft.
I wouldn't have
No, you know,
if you weren't running late.
I'm glad we were running a little late. We're at kind of a critical juncture
Absolutely.
in bills right now.
Yeah,
Legislature. Appreciate your patience.
No worries. So my goal in coming here today was to plead for a comprehensive, consistent, and updated set of rules and regulations for home food makers, as Department of Health Julie Arell had acknowledged during her testimony in front of the House Ag Food Resiliency and Forestry Committee. I now feel much more confident that this will happen with only two remaining concerns, maybe one and a half. The first being that the Department of Health, in contemplating its process going forward, that they consult with Vermont food makers, bakers, farmers, small businesses, and other stakeholders to gain their perspective and their insight. So it's not just borrowing rules, regulations, other things from other states. So let's put some Vermont in this. Excuse me. Lastly, the new section among the new sections for, calls for, or allows, whatever the term might be, for emergency rules. For things that like the training performance, which is going to be coming forward, I assume. I have a concern about emergency rules. It cites Title III, Chapter 25, Section 844, emergency rules. I looked up Title III, Chapter 25, Section 844, emergency rules, and the first sentence says, when an agency believes that there exists an imminent peril to public health, safety, or welfare, it may adopt an emergency rule. It just seems like if emergency rules are allowed, it most likely will not allow for collaboration and outreach.
So in the process of developing any rules, there is there are public hearings and public outreach. An emergency rule, and I'm by no means am I the expert here, but I had served on the rules committee for many years and understand that when rule making happens, it can go on for 18 months.
Right.
So an emergency rule is something that can be put in place faster so that it might help during this next growing season and sales season. So in that sense, the emergency rule could be a benefit to you and others.
Mhm.
So I don't see it as an impediment. The only problem I see is justification in front of the Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules that this is an emergency. So it's an emergency for people to get out there and sell their goods and have that threshold raised. Or we could wait till next summer. That's kind of the way I look at it.
I was just concerned that, and again, the collaboration part of it.
Yeah, no, and there is, and we'll confirm that there is a public process. And I understand that language is important to you. I don't see anything wrong with that, and having Department of Health reach out to others, and we'll ask them their thoughts on that.
Yeah. Okay. So in closing, I just want to thank all of you for your kind attention and the hard work that you put into this, and the folks at the Department of Health for their implementation efforts to support 401. This is a happy day for me to be able to sit here and
A happy day.
read
It's a happy
my.
day. Thank you.
And it's
No, I appreciate it.
And as
Go
a
ahead.
last thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. No, we thought
This is
what?
an FDA approved recipe for pickled asparagus.
Oh, okay, my husband is going to let you. Oh, wonderful. This is the one. This is the one. I have asparagus. This is going right into my bowl. Thank you very much.
And I got that recipe from the Department of Health's food and lodging website.
Webpage?
Yeah.
Awesome. It gives you two. So this is awesome.
Yeah, I had.
I'm not above 6,000 feet, so I think.
So anyway, again, thank you.
Did Senator
This
Hart
is-
get one?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, we should make sure. he
This
does.
is-
Make sure he does one.
He's gonna do it.
I am not wise in the ways of Montpelier, and this has been a great lesson in civics for me.
Hope it's a good one.
Oh, absolutely. You know, a few days ago, I was going,
I know, I could tell.
If he gives me that recipe, I'll give him the recipe for homemade Kahlua.
All right.
Oh, that's
Senator.
Dude.
terrific.
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And when I got your email, I said, we need to hear from you because you were very concerned. And you also have experience in this area. So thank you for being available to this. And now we're going to move on to our next witness. And we've introduced ourselves. So if you're okay with that, Alan, right?
I am.
Okay. And why don't you introduce yourself for the record and then we'll listen to your testimony.
Good morning. I did not bring a recipe, so I just want to get it out of the way right away.
Okay, well, that,
Again,
you know,
maybe muffins next time.
okay.
But Caroline, thank you for affording me this time. I have a couple of minutes of testimony. For the record, my name is Alan Reeks. I work as Director of Public and Government Affairs for Hanover Co-op Food Stores. Across our 3 retail locations, White River Junction, Vermont, Lebanon, and Hanover, New Hampshire, we source about $19 million worth of local food each year. 65% of that comes from Vermont. We're in support of H401 as passed by the House. I was happy to see the revisions in the latest draft because at our co-op, we've watched many of the local favorites in our stores and small co-ops and independent retailers get their start in small home kitchens. They earn their trust at farmers markets. They grow gradually and eventually land on retail shelves. It's a well-worn path for food entrepreneurs. It's true at stores like ours. We're rather large as food co-ops go. If you've ever been in our White River Junction store, it's a nice community-sized grocer. If you've ever been in our Lebanon store, you've been in a 36,000 square foot member-owned cooperative. But it's also true at Hunger Mound or up the hill at Adamant Food Co-op. These stores survive by selling local goods, not commodity goods. That's why the sales threshold matters to us. It creates breathing room small producers need to test, grow, and refine the offerings before taking on excessive requirements and costs. Raising the threshold to $30,000 allows producers to stay focused on quality and community connections. Of course, in our trade, food safety is paramount. End of day, start of day, middle of day. Food safety is always there. Without data pointing to safety issues among Vermont small food producers of pickled and fermented foods, that creation of a special category would more likely stall growth than prevent harm, in my view. So please don't single them out because of the assumption that once they reach $10,000 in sales, they're suddenly too busy or too risky, or the presumption that spatial limitations will suddenly impact the business with certainty. Yes, more sales bring complexity, but they also bring more experience and focus. Let's not impede growth before it can take root. Fermented vegetables, preserved farm goods, sauces, they're not just products. They're income streams that keep small farms afloat through diversification. They make local food more accessible and help rural communities. And that certainly is what I read in the legislative intent of this bill. So without supportive thresholds, we risk losing the early stage producers who may never make it past the startup phase. Thank you for really the consideration you've given to giving them a fair shot, just like everyone in H401. So I appreciate your efforts and happy to ask any and answer any questions rather. And just to put a finer point on something, no one's going to make the leap from a farmer's market necessarily to the shelves of a large food co-op, but it is a step-by-step gradual process that we've been witness to. And I say we, all of us. And it's what is the economic engine that we count on and we saw as food security during the pandemic. That's a local food source and security that we all count on. Thank you very much. I have made a few marks on my paper, so I will submit a clean copy electronically.
That would be great. That would be great. So in terms of the latest draft that you've looked at, we're
3.1, like it, and grateful for the diligence that happens. It's just like a small baker in a small kitchen or the folks in a small room.
We've
Acting
gotten
out
to the
detail.
co-op.
Wonderful.
No, it's great. Thank you for taking the time to
Of
be
course.
here
Of
and
course.
good work. Thank you for your work.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. This is one of those bills that when it came to us, we thought this all over slam dunk and then but we need to make improvements. And I think we've done that and we appreciate the work the Department of Health has done and that you folks have done to bring it to our attention. Rural Vermont has been very helpful with it.
Absolutely. A key
Katie,
player.
yeah, Katie, can we look at the latest draft and then
Good morning. Meeting with the Office of Legislative Counsel, I pulled the latest draft. The latest draft is 3.1. It's available on your website. Since we last talked about this draft, there was only one change, and that was the change brought by the Health Department. It's highlighted in yellow. And that's a change. If you remember, there was this Senate version adds a definition of cottage food product. And there is a new item on the list. Home canned pickles, vegetables, or fruits having an equilibrium pH value of 4.6 or lower, or a water activity value of 0.85 or less that are made using recipes approved by the National Center for Home Food Preservation or reviewed by a processing authority for safety. So that is the addition. I heard questions about rulemaking, so I thought I would just address those. That's
Please,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
that's important.
So let me scroll down so we're looking at the same language. So there is, I just wanted to point out two things. One, emergency rulemaking and statute does have a health and welfare standard, but this language says that it has deemed to have met that standard. So it doesn't have to be a separate inquiry. The legislature is speaking that it has met that standard. And then you have language to lead off this paragraph that says pending the adoption of permanent rules. Permanent rules is where the full comment period would be. While there might be emergency rules that take effect in the short term, there still will be a fuller, more robust process happening as well.
So essentially, if we have this in this bill, it says it's our intent that the rules cover what's in the bill, period, right?
I wouldn't just say it's your intent. I mean, here you're saying that the standard has been met.
That's what I mean. Okay, the standard has been met for rulemaking, emergency rulemaking.
Mhm.
So from your perspective, from your legal perspective, then emergency rules going into place would allow for what they would happen. I'm looking at Department of Health right now. My question of Department of Health is, how quickly would these emergency rules be in place? And that's one question, and I'll come back to Katie with the other question in a minute. So how quickly would these rules go into place, and what would be the implications from the Department of Health perspective? Jessica.
Good morning, Jessica Shapano, Department of Health. I would have to consult with our legal counsel about that process.
Okay.
But I think, our recommendation to be able to do the full rulemaking was to have the effective date set for January 1st. And I know that was of 2026, and that was of concern to the committee. So I think we believe that we can do the emergency rulemaking process and have things in place by July 1st, but I will need to clarify that with other folks.
But so if it's July 1st, and it allows for the current growing season and pickling and other baking season going forward, and the earnings peaks. Farmers market starts. Okay, but there's no, good. And then when permanent rulemaking goes into place, that's the time when the full review and the full input from the public happens. Looking at Katie.
Oh, yes, when there are permanent rules, it's the full process. So typically, full rulemaking takes, I think, the shortest would be 6 months. More likely, it's closer to 9 months. So by putting emergency rules in place in conjunction with having the permanent rules move, it allows you to have this language be operable about 6 to 9 months earlier than it otherwise could be if you waited for the permanent rulemaking.
So if we wait for permanent rules, then the date is January 1st when things are not as the growing season.
Then it has to be
Exactly robust.
you have to get through legislative meeting.
Yes. So I'm fine with the language here. I think it makes a lot of sense to keep it at July 1st and then have things go forward for folks.
Do honor before.
Huh?
You could do honor before
On
July.
July 1st, 2025. Or
That
a
would be-
passage
the effective date you could do on passage. You know, I don't know that you want to do on passage because you do need to give the window for the emergency rulemaking to happen. And it sounds like it will already be tight with July 1.
Yeah, let's leave it. And then it should, yeah, no, I think that's sufficient. I think that's sufficient. Okay. All right. So how does everybody feel about that? Questions? Any questions?
The last year in here, I mentioned and I requested an amendment for, what was it, section 4301, A5.
What page are you on?
Of, in her draft, that's page 2. To reflect that it's not just solely in the kitchen of a person's residence.
Oh, so the
Sometimes you might have like a very small like food prep area, you know, in the room next to your kitchen or something, or you might have a small outer building.
You're an up.
Yeah.
Operator.
Yeah.
Okay.
There.
So what, I mean, I'm happy to make a change depending what the committee would like to see there.
So where is it exactly?
It's subdivision 5. It's this language right here. Food operator.
Oh, got it. Okay, yeah.
I mean, the definition of home kitchen, can it just be a kitchen that's somewhere on someone's property?
That's good for a cottage.
Yes, some people use like the food hub.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
a kitchen.
Yeah, that's a kitchen.
It's a kitchen.
It's not, I don't, home kitchen isn't defined in statute. It might be defined in rule. I'm looking at Jessica. I'd have to look it up to see if it's defined in rule.
What if we just struck of the person's private residential dwelling?
Would that capture a food hub?
It would. I mean, you could go, leave your house and go to St. Albans or
Any phone kitchen.
Franklin County. They have one up there. I forget where it is. I think it's Sarah could tell us.
If you're leaving the word homes,
I was
say
wondering
that.
with that, solely in a kitchen within the person's private residential dwelling. Then I don't know if there's like an outbuilding of the person's dwelling, how
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
interpreted.
Yeah, that's why I made last time I made reference to
Yeah.
on property.
Yeah.
The same property as their private.
The
Oh,
deciding,
that's right.
yeah, the deciding thing seems to be the $10,000.
Yeah, because there is a definition of a commercial food.
So it's-
operator in statute, I'm
As
sure there
long,
is.
yeah, as long as it's a kitchen,
Yeah.
it doesn't make any, I don't, and I'll look to the department. If it makes any different, if it's your kitchen or your grandmother's kitchen or the food hub's kitchen, what makes you a cottage industry is that you're making less than.
Yeah.
It's the income threshold. Yeah, if you make more than that, then you go into commercial.
Right, exactly.
But
I
sometimes,
think, and I'll look at them.
So I'm looking at Jessica behind you. Do you want to?
Jessica Shabano, Department of Health. So, when we looked at the version of H401 as passed by the House, they did clarify that, like, the categories were for home producers. And the department feels more comfortable leaving the categories home producers. Some of the food hubs, when people use them, they require people to be licensed. And so we think that it would create more confusion
Okay.
to expand this. I think we would be fine with an expansion to other parts of the property potentially, because we don't, if it's home production, I think that makes sense. So if we think the language right now is written in a too limited way to capture that, we would be okay with editing that a bit, but we don't want to create this category that would expand to allowing people to be in other kitchens that are of more commercial nature.
So how could we say that? So on their home kitchen. Home kitchen. A home kitchen could be a separate building from that.
Right.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I'm just thinking a home kitchen could be a separate building on your private property. It's like
You have a kitchen in your barn, you have a kitchen in your.
next to your cows. No, you don't.
Do you happen to know if
Your outbuilding.
kitchen is defined in statute? Because
Not defined in statute.
Yeah.
It is defined in the rule to mean a principal area where food is prepared and utensils are washed.
okay,
That's all we have to say. It's done. It's done. We're good. So would it change in would we refer to that? Just say that?
You want to just use the phrase? Yeah, the principal, okay. Means a person produces or packages cottage food products solely in the home kitchen, period.
or
It means the principal area. It doesn't, yeah.
could you say who, cottage food operator means any person who produces or packages cottage food products under this chapter or something like that, like as following the guidelines of the chapter?
No.
Okay.
Any person produces.
It's always gonna be somebody who does something different. But I don't think the Department of Health has staffing. Given
It's
everything.
not gonna be
else,
running
they're
out to
not
everybody's
running out
backyard.
To say,
But
if
we just want it to be
you've got
clear.
a kitchen or an oven in the backyard where you
Yeah.
bake your pizza.
A pizza.
Or your bread.
There is one around here that bakes, but they're licensed.
I know, they're licensed, but you have it in Waitsfield.
We had this one in Worcester.
Oh,
What if you just add or on the person's property at the end of the clause?
boom.
Okay.
Let's try that.
Yeah.
We don't want to make it.
If you're doing it in your mother's kitchen. You know, we'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll do.
Person's private property?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So read it to us, please.
Cottage food operator means any person who produces or packages cottage food products solely in the home kitchen of the person's private residential dwelling. Or in the person on the or on the person's private property.
Or in a kitchen on the person's private property.
Or in a kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, could do that.
Okay. Oh, how quickly can we look at a clean copy?
I can go over there and do it now.
Okay, we'll do that. We're gonna take a little short break. Or do you want to continue with H91? And because, oh no, let's take a little short break and then have Michael come in at 11:15, possibly 11:30, tell him let him know. But we're behind. We have 3 people that testified and that probably be at 2:38. Yeah. We'll take a short break.